Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 14. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Friday. Steelers Nation, Dave, the Pittsburgh Steelers 2023 preseason has concluded a clean sweep of their three opponents, going 3-0 on the summer, shutting out the Atlanta Falcons 24-0 Thursday night on the road in Atlanta. Dare I say, Dave, it may only be preseason, but I think it was the perfect preseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, happy Friday. Kind of a short, stressful kind of week, if you will, but we've got that behind us now, and all 22's already dropped, and got a lot of football on tap the rest of this weekend. Week 0 of college, right? Coming up here. Perfect preseason for the Steelers, and not only, we got a lot to talk about. Not only really a perfect preseason, but kind of the theme that you and I have had kind of running for all the offseason here is, even going back to end of February, early March there. I hope people take in all that. We don't know how the season's obviously going to play out and all like that, but as far as an off season goes, and I've obviously done this since like 2008, you not too long after there. I don't, and we've said this a few times. I don't know how you could script. Maybe the NFL wrote this perfect script for the tweet. Steelers,
yeah.
But I don't know how you could have scripted this offseason, to go any better. I mean, there hasn't been any, drama. You go back and you look at the activity and how busy this team really was for a long period of time through the free agency process. You obviously get into the draft and you see what happened there, and kind of the quote unquote supposed steals that look like this team got. Then you fast forward into the off season, the OTA, rookie minicamp, OTAs, mandatory minicamp. Came out of that relatively healthy and productive. You get into training camp, and I think you had a heavy rainfall maybe one day, but it didn't really totally annihilate practice. There were no fights, so you're not building an MMA team. You get into the preseason, and really some strong performances in all three games there. And here we are now, injury-wise, this team looked really, really healthy at this point. And then now you head into the final few days before you have to make the roster cuts here. Take a good look at it, because I'll tell you what, I'm 55. I don't think I'll see another off season as clean and as perfect as this one.
We joked about it. You kind of look over your shoulder and say, okay, when's this thing fall apart? When's that first thing gonna drop? But it's been really productive, and we can discuss, and I'm sure we will, how much stock you take from this summer and apply it to the regular season. And obviously, once September 10th happens, the ball gets kicked off against San Francisco. We're not talking too much about what happened in the second quarter of the Falcons game, but for the here and now, all Pittsburgh can do is do what's been in front of them, and they have checked, I think, essentially every box you're looking for this time of year.
Man, one box I wanted to get checked last night. I wrote up in my five specific things to look for was can Kenny see red? And boy, did I didn't get one, but two of them, right? With Kenny in charge, and in total, this team had three red zone opportunities, and all three culminated with red zone run, or low red zone at that, touchdown runs. And to me, I didn't know how long they were going to play play the starters in this one, obviously ahead of time, but they played them long enough that whatever boxes they didn't have checked offensively, I feel like they checked. And obviously they were running scores for the Steelers down there in the low red zone, not passing one. So I guess if there was one that wasn't checked, it was Kenny didn't throw a red zone touchdown. But I think that's forgivable with look, if you strike if you have the explosive plays like you have from this team during the preseason, and you have a quarterback that in 5 drives, five touchdowns, was it 7 or 8 explosive plays, I think, throughout the snap count that Kenny had there. Those other things are going to come there. So, yeah, I mean, offensively, and look, they can't control who lines up across the other side of them. But as we're going to get into, especially on a couple of these big plays early here, I don't know if it matters if the Falcons' first team defense is out there on some of those some of those big plays in this game last night. I mean, really, really good wins by the wide receivers, and protection was just good enough all the way around, and just to pinpoint throws. I think one of the huge takeaways from Kenny Pickett in these 3 preseason games is A, the footwork, B, the understanding of what he's looking at, and C, I mean, the pinpoint accuracy. I mean, and I don't know what more you want other than saying, and you'll hear this all this week, I'm sure. Well, it was second, third,
right.
They didn't play their starters.
Sure. And had their success come in just this game, there may be a more valid argument. I think, and we're going to do the housekeeping here in just one moment, but just to kind of give our quick thoughts on the game. What happened against Buffalo probably carried more weight because it was against their starters. They played their guys. Atlanta did not. They sat essentially all their starters. But I think what happened against Atlanta was almost more important because you saw a lot of variety in how Pittsburgh scored. You saw them backed up on their own 8 to start a drive and put the ball in the end zone. That's incredibly impressive, regardless of what the defense, is doing, who they're playing, who they're not playing. You saw third down conversions. You saw deep balls to Deontay and George Pickens. But as you said, you saw low red zone work. You saw some really good stuff down by the goal line, which we had not seen so far. Essentially the only thing we had not yet seen from the offense this preseason. So I think in terms of the body of work and the box checking, I thought what happened against Atlanta was probably more important and more relevant than what happened against Tampa Bay or against Buffalo.
I agree. And look, I mean, that game, if people get, like we said the other day, if people get hurt in this one, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, and if you don't play your starters enough in this thing, and you go into that first game and they're flat or whatnot, the talk's going to be, see, I told you they should have played their starters more and all like that. You know what? Mike Tomlin don't give a flying he used the word agenda how many times? I think in these last 2 weeks there, Mike Tomlin had an agenda with what he wanted to accomplish with his preseason. He did not care what the other team sent out there defensively. There were things that boxes that this team wanted to check, and they checked them. End of story there. So, and they came out clean on the other side. And, I think that's an important aspect of this thing all the way around there. I mean, this team offensively, they got a lot of snaps, I think in totality. And once again, some of the things that we didn't necessarily see as far as, short fields and all like that, we got to see in this finale overall. And man, look, he had this team, even you get past the starters in this game on both sides of the football, he had this team ready to go in this game. I mean, from top to bottom, these guys were fighting for jobs.
Yeah, it's been a competitive group overall, and it's been a really good group. And I know it is so cliche to talk about the tough cuts and how deep a team is this time of year, but I think Pittsburgh is in that spot. So really happy with, how ready this team was and obviously their overall production and execution of that readiness. So let's back out for just a moment here. And
look, I think that they've got not only one potential guy maybe going out the door here in the next few days. There could be 2 or 3 trades that people calling the Steelers on some of these guys. I think that this team's that deep with that tough of cuts that I'm almost sure there's going to be one guy dealt, but sure. You could see 2 or 3 of these guys dealt.
And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, more today and also in Monday's show right ahead of that Tuesday cut down deadline, which Mike Tomlin said this team will be patient and basically wait till the last second to make their cuts. At least that's what he's saying publicly. But let's do the housekeeping thing here. Mike Tomlin saying that all healthy players will play, and that was essentially true in this one, where you saw some defensive veterans who sat in the opener play in the finale, including TJ Watt, Patrick Peterson. Minka Fitzpatrick played in this game, correct? I'm not misremembering that.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to. I don't know if they
or
got
did he?
Snap count.
I have not gone through my charting.
He was not listed as a did not play player. I'm trying to see if they got the snap counts out yet. I don't see them on the game book yet. I think I remember seeing them out there.
Okay. But point is, you saw basically all the healthy guys play. A couple who did not play, the most relevant thing includes defensive lineman Cam Hayward and Larry Ogunjobi. Tomlin calling Hayward a day-to-day thing, did not specify what the injury is. Ogunjobi still battling that right foot injury. Other players offensively, a couple offensive linemen missing, and Kevin Dotson. We assume that's related to the right shoulder injury he's been battling for about 2.5, 3 weeks now. Nate Herbig, unfortunately, could not get back for this game. I'm sure we'll talk about that here more in depth. And James Daniels did not play either. Tomlin also calling that day-to-day. And so those are some of the most notable injuries. Tomlin said there were really no in-game injuries. So again, clean bill of health on that aspect. But the trenches were a little bit thinner in this game. Yeah,
you had Kendrick Green start at right guard in this one, and that had me kind of holding my breath a little bit when that news came out. But I think I haven't gone through it. I mean, all 22 dropped about an hour before we got on this thing, but I think overall he represented himself okay at guard.
Yeah, and it was right guard. And I mean, he was a left guard in college. I don't know how many snaps he's ever gotten over there at right guard, but it looked okay. It's always tough to, judge the offensive lineman off the all 22, especially interior guys, but it didn't seem to be anything that was noticeably poor.
Right. And I don't feel like these injuries are they don't sound serious according to Tomlin.
The Ogunjobi one is the one where I have a bit of pause and go, hopefully it's not. Hopefully the team is being 100% honest and accurate when they talk about, the lack of seriousness to the injury. That's something I kind of worry. He was in a boot for a couple days. It's a foot injury. He's had a history of this kind of stuff. I just really hope this won't be a thing that's lingering as we get close to week 1.
Right. Me as well, too. You would have obviously liked to seen him out there, any, right? He didn't play any in this, right?
Did he play in Tampa Bay? I don't think.
I don't think he did.
Trying to think back. Yeah, I know he didn't play against Buffalo. Did not obviously play against Atlanta. So as long as he's good for week 1, but Ogunjobi health consistency are the biggest concerns with him, and it's a little ominous given the time that he's missed.
Right.
And we'll talk about Herbig more probably here in a second. But let's focus on the guys who did play in this one. And Pittsburgh Steelers starting offense, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns in this game. As I said, the opening possession going 92 yards, 2 deep balls for, I believe, 33 and 35 yards to Deontay Johnson, and then later to George Pickens. The latter took Pittsburgh down to the Falcons 1. Najee Harris punched it in the next play, had a couple of good runs from Harris and Warren on that drive, a screen pass, I believe, on that drive, maybe the one after from Najee Harris. And so first team offense looking good as they have all summer.
Man, I tell you, once again, and Kenny, how many times has Kenny said this offseason, if Deontay or George are out there one-on-one, he's going to give them shots, especially Pickens. But you start off with that first big play to Deontay against, what at first looks like it's going to be maybe a too high. You send the short motion there to get kind of a tell. I think he obviously read it correctly to see that was going to probably be a cover one situation. You had a nice split on Deontay on that other side. Kind of ran a mesh with a kind of a fade in there. Deontay, a fantastic release off of that. Gave himself plenty of room to work with outside the hash, and you cannot run down there and drop that ball into the bucket any better than Kenny Pickett did on that. So explosive play number one in the books, and on a third down in, what was it, 5 or something?
Yeah.
On that. So that's explosive play number one.
There's a bend mentality to Kenny Pickett. 3rd and 5, single high, middle of the field close. I'm taking a shot one-on-one on the outside. He loves those opportunities, and he's thrown them a ton. And so it's not new from last year, but I think it's been obviously more effective this summer overall. So yeah, I mean, as you said, as Kenny Pickett said, he gets single high. He gets guys one-on-one on the outside. He's going to throw it up there. And as you said, the accuracy was pinpoint. So that's going to be a real weapon, and it's going to dissuade teams from playing single high.
Right. Then you turn around and you see this second big play. Once again, you got, an outside, one high type situation with Pickens there. And he gets just enough time on that. Warren pass protecting, I think, on the DB coming on. I think that was that one. Yeah. Coming there, and Warren gets just enough for Kenny to deliver that one down the right side. And I mean, that where he put that ball, you expect George Pickens to come down with that one. And he obviously did. So there's explosive play number 2. I think 31 air yards on that one. And then kind of after he catches, he falls for, I think it was 35 total yards on the play. And there you are in the red zone, or low red zone,
where the corner had good coverage, but if George Pickens is covered, that means George Pickens is open. I mean, that's the contested ability that he brings that so few guys do. And generally, those type of receivers don't work. They don't last in the NFL. You think about, big jump ball machines in college, Laquan Treadwell, N'Keal Harry, guys like that. They never really panned out. But Pickens is that rare breed that can win so consistently. And he's just got great ball control and tracking and the physicality, and he just makes it work. It is kind of that D-Hop kind of vibe. So he truly is one of those guys that is rarely ever actually covered.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of these throughout the year, outside the hashes like that. The thing is, and we fortunately saw some of it during the preseason. There's work in the middle of the field as well, too. So, I mean, Kenny has now worked all aspects of the field, as far as the deep ball goes. And, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to have to mix and match and really have teams think about, how they're going to cut, what kind of coverages they're going to actually run. Are they going to, be forced into running more too high stuff? And if they do, then, are you going to be able to run against that?
Yeah, you should be able to. And if you can run the ball well, it's going to force teams to roll that safety down as that 8th defender in the box, and that's going to leave a lot of single high for the pass game. Just a last note on that Pickens catch, and I want to see the all-22 on it, but I like the play design. 3-by-1, Deontay backside runs the drag, and number 3, the innermost slot receiver to the 3-receiver side, the trip side, was Freiermuth running this crosser, and that took the safety. He took the crosser. And that left Pickens 1v1. And I got to also shout out Kenny Pickett for the eye movement, holding that safety, moving that safety on both the Deontay and Pickens catch, where he's holding the middle of the field and then comes back, looks left, and then looks right for Deontay and Pickens, respectively. So I think the eye movement, the eye manipulation in those situations is a really critical component to those completions.
Yeah, I just watched the feed on both those. Really did a good job on it. And once again, we're not talking about 48, 52-yard air yard passes either. We're talking about 30 to 40 yard range air yards here, and they're right where they need to be. So you don't have to uncork 161 yards for a deep pass completion. In fact, the NFL terms a deep pass anything over 15 air yards here, and you got a couple in this game that were in the I think 30 to 40 range, and with that kind of pinpoint accuracy, I don't care if it's 20, 30, 40 yard gains. I mean, explosive plays are explosive plays.
Yeah, if this team can consistently and often enough get 30-yard completions, then they're going to be just fine offensively. No question about that. Let's talk run game here. Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris. I was really happy for Warren, obviously, but also for Najee Harris to get a couple good plays in the summer just to kind of take off some of that tension and some of the controversy, if you can call it that, about Harris versus Warren. And I'm sure that the debate still kind of will continue to some respect. But yeah, I thought Harris ran hard, get in the end zone, a good outing for him to end the summer that had been pretty quiet intentionally. Pittsburgh very protective of Najee Harris this year, but a good way to get him some touches.
I think that one run early, and I put the end zone view of that already up on my Twitter feed before we got on here, was showed him making a couple of cuts, on one of those inside runs with the two double teams in there. So that run alone showed me that Najee's healthy.
Yeah. Is that on your timeline? I hadn't looked at it yet. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I see it now. Yeah. And I got to shout out the whole offensive line in particular. Very good. But just one guy. I'm watching. I was going to say something. I'm watching this Najee run. You're right. A really good feat there. But yeah, Malu, of all the additions that Pittsburgh has had, and they've had many quality ones and guys that I think should and will help this team. But man, Isaac Malu, I don't talk about him enough, and shame on me for that, but I want to bring him to the forefront now because this dude is just a stud at left guard.
And Mason Cole's healthy too. He's had some nice reach and turns throughout this preseason in his limited playing time. So those two side by side, and obviously James Daniels has had some flashes in this. The interior of this line looks really, really good right now.
It does, but Malu with the strength, the anchor, the football IQ, just such a big upgrade. And I think it's going to be the biggest difference from all their offseason additions. Malu probably will have the biggest impact of anybody this team brought in 2023.
Agreed.
All right, anything else?
What about that? I guess it was after the first team there. Is that what you wanted to wrap up with the first team offense?
Yeah, wherever you want to take it, feel free wherever you're going. I'm with you.
I mean, the summer of the mixed summer. I guess we'll call this the mixed summer, right? I mean, and we've seen him have good preseasons in the past, but I think Anthony McFarland really punctuated the end of mixed summer 2023 with some of his play last night as well. I mean that. And Jaylen Warren, a nice physical outside zone, run to finish that one down in the end zone. And we saw an Anthony McFarland kind of power touchdown there with some effort in this thing. We saw him also bust one, to the outside. So good for him. I mean, as we got deeper into this thing, the questions still kind of remain. Okay, we've seen him on the offensive side of football. What can he do on a defensive side of football? And it sure seems like the plan is for him to be the kick returner. And it's not his fault. There was nobody else on the depth chart behind him to really push him, but it didn't matter because he pushed himself throughout this summer and preseason specifically. And now at this point, the only way that he doesn't make the all 53 is, to me, A, they only keep two true running backs, or B, they go outside and get somebody that maybe, I don't think they're going to find a guy offensively to offer what Anthony McFarland offers them as a number 3 running back. The only way they would go outside is to look to see somebody that maybe has a little bit more special teams value. But I think even on some of these kick returns, he's done enough there. So at this point, I would view it a little bit of a surprise if they go outside the organization for a number 3 running back.
I would too. I know I wrote about Trey Sermon yesterday as somebody that Pittsburgh loved coming out of Ohio State and offers kind of the more of that traditional number 3 role. This was an extremely important game for Anthony McFarland. He admitted as much to the media leading up to Thursday's kickoff, and I think he passed the test. Now, the kick returns, I mean, you never got a good feel for. Obviously, he's pressing. Even so, probably shouldn't have taken out that opening kickoff that's 8 yards deep, and he's, with momentum going backwards, and Gunner has no idea the ball's being returned, and Mark Robinson gets a block in the back, probably because he doesn't know the ball's being returned and just kind of made a mistake there trying to recover. But you understand why McFarland's trying to do something there. But as a runner, the speed, and that touchdown, he ran hard. And I talked about midway through camp that he was showing some toughness as a runner. We know he's fast. We know he has speed. That's never been a question. Can you run tough? And obviously, he's not Jaylen Warren. He's not Najee Harris, but there was a different element to his game there. So I'm with you. I think he's done enough to stick. I would be more surprised, than not if they went outside and added somebody. And while I think Connor Hayward could see some running back snaps, he got a bunch of running back carries in this game. I think they're still going to carry 3, quote unquote, true running backs. And I think McFarland will be that third.
I tell you, the only thing that, and I think you pointed this out during the game on Twitter, what was the goal here to get Connor Hayward so many carries throughout this day? I mean, you even said during during training camp that, man, Connor Hayward's going to get some carries this year. Mm-hmm. Was this just to kind of punctuate hit? Because we already know how, did that guy miss a target during the preseason? Connor Hayward in the passing game?
I don't think so. I'd have to go back and think.
I mean, he catches everything thrown his way, and I guess I was a little bit surprised, even though you had written during training camp that, man, getting him some. I guess I was surprised in this finale with so many backs to kind of look at that. They made a concerted effort again to get Connor Hayward the football in the backfield there.
Well, here's, I think, their calculation, and this is no malice to Greg Bell and Darius Hagans and Valladay, but who's going to be on the 53 come week 1? Greg Bell or Connor Hayward? It's going to be Connor Hayward. And so get this guy some reps and some different looks while you can right now to get him a feel for the backfield. I don't know how many carries he's actually going to get whenever you have full deployment of Harris and Warren. I think if Hayward gets some running back snaps, it may come on some third down type stuff, another weapon out of the flat, pass protection because of the size that he has, more so than, Warren should be the third down back. But if you wanted another option, somebody got hurt, I think that's where Hayward fits. But, he's a guy that's going to be on this roster, and those backup running backs are not. And so let's give Hayward some opportunity. And he looked fine running the football too. Obviously, yeah, that's his background at Michigan State to begin his career. So it's not anything new to him. So it's just more he can do, then more he can help.
The only other thing that's kind of stuck out to me, I guess, throughout this preseason and specifically last night, they made sure to get Darnell Washington more first team snaps with this unit. And what does that mean for one Zach Gentry?
Well, I'll tell you, Darnell Washington's addressing week 1. I know that before camp got started, there were some, I think, local media, and I understand the point that they had, but they were wondering, okay, would Washington actually dress week 1? He's going to dress week 1. I think it's going to be malpractice if he's not out there and does not have a helmet for the 49ers game. Now, does that mean Gentry can't make the team? We'll talk about that probably some more. But if Gentry does make the team, he's going to be the 4th tight end and likely in street clothes come week 1.
I agree.
And that one pancake that Washington had. I know the linebacker was kind of reaching for the tackle, or reaching to make the tackle, and it's a little easier to pancake him. But still, I mean, you're going to get some really fun reps from Darnell Washington.
You are. And he's only going to get better once he kind of understands the speed of it and the angles and how to use his size properly.
Let's talk offensive line now. And again, the starters overall, I think, did well. Say Malu, Cole, Dan Moore, I thought, looked fine. I mean, Dan Moore is going to be the starting left tackle week 1. Do we agree upon that?
Yeah, did give up a deep pressure, I think, on that first one to Deontay, but Kenny had just enough time to get rid of that one there. I do agree that he's going to be the week one starting left tackle, but within that, at some point through whatever process, organically or whatever, injury, whatever, Broderick Jones is going to start at left tackle at some point during this season.
Yeah, but week one, we think it's going to be more there as the starter. The second team, I'm trying to remember the whole second team configuration. This was obviously kind of a weird game because you're missing so many guys in this one. No Herbig, no Dotson, no Daniels, a lot of interior guys that were out. So I'm sure the snap counts for the O-line, those interior guys especially, was really high because there weren't a lot of other backup options in this game to put in, third teamers or something like that. So I'm sure McCollum and company played a lot of snaps. Let's talk more about Dylan Cook, who got some left guard work, and then I believe he played some tackle in this game. We've talked about him some as a potential sleeper to make this team. Where are you at on Dylan Cook right now?
Yeah, look, I followed your lead on your all 53-man roster that I released mine just before the game yesterday there, and assuming Kevin Dotson's not part of this 9. It's a real strong argument, I think, at this point for Dylan Cook to make this roster. And they have played him at guard. They have played him at tackle. I think he has represented himself well overall. And once again, you've got another guy that's position versatile along with Anderson, who we saw that throughout the preseason. And we saw it again, obviously last night as well, too, there. I think you have two guys in Anderson and Dylan Cook as 8 and 9 that you can feel fairly comfortable with here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to really kind of. We'll see how they decide these final O-line spots. I still don't know what they're gonna do with Dotson and Kendrick Green. To his credit, seemed to have better play last night. Is that enough to stick? I don't think so. But how much is that shoulder injury of Herbig bothering him, and who really is your backup center? And isn't Nate Herbig, who got all 9 snaps there inside a stadium this preseason? It does get a little murky there.
Yeah, you would have, if there was one box that I was hoping at least to get checked, one of the specific things that I wrote about in my 5 specific things, I was hoping Herbig was going to get on the field so we could see more snaps at center. We know how he is as a guard. We got enough tape, not only with the Steelers, but previous teams as well too, how he is at guard. But how serious is that, and does that cause you? But you got Anderson a lot of snaps in there. You got Cook snap. I mean, it would feed into the idea that you could still get away with not having Dotson.
Did Anderson play center in this game? I was losing track of where he was aligning.
I don't think he did, but I haven't made it all the way back through the all 22, and I wasn't looking for that on the TV tape last night.
Okay. How many center snaps did he get this summer inside a stadium? He got some against
it was like
Buffalo.
seven or something against Buffalo.
I don't think he had any against Tampa, right? He didn't play center in that game.
Right.
Or did he?
No, I don't think he did.
I want to say no. I think it was center and left tackle, the 2 spots he didn't play in the opener. He's playing a lot of guard and then some right tackle, I believe, against Tampa Bay.
We did see a little bit of left tackle with him though, right? Because because I said I wish he would have played left tackle so he could have hit for the cycle there.
Right.
Let me see here. Center, 5 snaps for Anderson. I think they do have all these snaps updated now here. So no snaps for Anderson last night at center. Here are his snap totals by position throughout the preseason for one Spencer Anderson. 5 at center, 54 at left guard, 25 at right guard, 25 at right tackle.
Okay, so primarily guard, some right tackle, a tiny bit at center, and none at left tackle, which surprised me a bit, but obviously they took a long look at Broderick Jones.
Right. But I mean, having to get Anderson into a game at left tackle would have to take a lot of bad things to happen,
Sure.
probably.
That's a fair point.
Dylan Cook, 26 at left guard last night, 23 at right tackle. The position for the preseason for him, I thought he had played. I guess he didn't play any left guard before last night. But here's his snap totals: left guard 26 in the preseason, 4 at left tackle. That came in the opener. Right tackle 71 snaps at right tackle for him.
Okay, he had played left guard the last day at camp. That's probably where you're thinking of that from, and then played some left guard last night. So he's primarily a tackle. Guard's new to him, but more you can do and to test that out is certainly a good thing. So to go back to the center conversation, your backup options are Nate Herbig, who's played, I think, 9 snaps at center this preseason, and Spencer Anderson, who's played 5 snaps at center this preseason and is, of course, a rookie. And then you have Kendrick Green, who has played a lot of snaps at center, and the quality of those snaps has been, poor. So very interesting to see what Pittsburgh does. I'm still leaning towards Herbig likely being the guy as the backup center, but obviously an outsider would not, put my jaw to the floor.
Right. I depending, and especially because of Herbig, 2 things with Herbig: the shoulder injury and the overall inexperience at center are the 2 things that can make you go outside and look for another center. But is that guy, that guy, if you go outside, would have to have a lot of center experience, a la kind of the Jimmy Morrissey that you've been talking about there. So the list, I would think, is pretty small overall.
And for what it's worth, when Mike Tomlin spoke with Bob Labriola in an article that's always posted on Game Day in the morning, Tomlin said he's very comfortable with the center options, naming, I believe, Herbig and Green and Anderson as those candidates.
Yeah, McCollum obviously played a lot of center throughout the preseason, but we don't, it doesn't seem like a legitimate option for him.
Yeah, practice squad maybe. He'd probably stick on the practice squad, but not 53. So any other thoughts here on the offensive line? Broderick Jones, I was trying to watch him. It looked good. I mean, it's hard for me to tell offensive linemen without going to the all-22, but, obviously against some of those backups for Atlanta, it looked fine.
Kevin Dotson played 45 snaps during the preseason, 38 of them at left guard, 7 of them at right guard.
And what happens to Kevin Dotson? Where is Kevin Dotson on August 31st or August 30th, Dave?
I still don't. I think he's gone, man. I think this team's going to trade away 2 or 3 guys, I think.
If he couldn't be traded, hypothetically, do you keep him or do you just cut him? So I think it's hard to cut him, especially with the Herbig injury, if you couldn't trade him. If you're worried,
and especially if there's nobody coming in, like center or something like that, that's guard capable. On top of it, and if you're worried about Herbig's shoulder, then you do probably keep him then, because look, you can get healthy as the year goes by, and there's still the trade deadline, right?
Right. Well, the question is, if you're worried about Herbig's shoulder, do you want to trade Dotson at all? Do you even want to offer him as available?
Yeah. Once again, I think some of these upcoming decisions are going to be based on Herbig's health.
Right. And that's obviously, it seemed minor when it happened. I mean, he was out there taking kind of some phantom reps at left guard and snapping late in camp after that initial injury. So this is why I hate the stupid Thursday game, because it's such a short turnaround. And you just wonder, do they sit a guy because there just isn't enough time, or because he's seriously that hurt, or whatever the case is? It's hard to know.
Right. I agree.
Any other thoughts here for this offense? Obviously, once the starters came out, and second half offense was really lackluster. Not that you can criticize probably Mason Rudolph too much for the pieces he was working with, but it was unproductive. Same with Tanner Morgan. Obviously the points dried up there pretty quickly.
As far as second teamers and all go on offense, I thought Gunner overall had a pretty decent game. If you're keeping 6, he's going to be the 6th, right?
Oh yeah, he is. The question is, will they keep 6?
Right.
And that it may be one of the biggest decisions you and I will be wrestling with our final 53-man predictions. They do like Gunner, though. And I think Kenny likes Gunner. And, what does that matter? What does that mean? we'll have to wait and see.
And if you do keep him, then he's probably going to be inactive like Steven Sims was in week 1 last year. But if you do keep 6, you're going to have to cut from probably another offensive position group. And the only way I can view that happening would be at the tight end position.
And that would be Mr. Zach Gentry.
Right.
So that's something, that you've mentioned. That's possible. That may be the calculation there.
And Gunner was on that was on a couple of special teams units early. I don't know how much to read into that. So
okay, that's notable. I'll have to go back and check the tape. Was he on like kick coverage? Was he punt coverage?
I can't remember. I just remember seeing him a couple of times on. I didn't note it.
I think he was the up man on the kick return, the opener that McFarland took out. I'm pretty sure that was Gunner, unaware that McFarland was going to, run that one out. So
let me see if I can effort that real quick on special teams for him real quick. Last night, kick return 1 snap. Nothing on kick coverage. He was on kick return for 1 snap.
Mm-hmm.
Punt return for 1 snap.
Yeah, that was him as the punt returner, I assume. So pretty limited, I guess. But obviously, there is some versatility there with Gunnar Olszewski.
He had 7 special team snaps in the second preseason game.
Okay. Yeah, maybe he plays some coverage. He was a DB in college. He can tackle. I'm sure he's a hair on fire type of dude. Rodney Williams, how about him? I think you noticed him as well. Kick coverage tackle. He's got 2 of those this preseason, 1 against Buffalo, 1 against Atlanta. This tight end room, Dave, is super deep, and I think Williams should stick on the practice squad.
And then Des Fitzpatrick's had a nice special teams offering throughout this thing. He could be a practice squad guy.
Right, especially with Cody White and Hakeem Butler's injuries. I think at this point, Fitzpatrick has done all he can do to be on the practice squad, and I know that you can never assume a guy will make it. Tyler Vaughns, we all thought was a lock for the practice squad last year. Didn't happen, but I think Fitzpatrick's showing more special teams value. And I think I'd be very surprised if he did not stick.
All right. That wrapped the offense.
All right, go over to the defense, and they were dominant against Atlanta's backups. And I was really hoping they would have played their starters to see Bijan Robinson and a bit of Desmond Ridder, but still, TJ Watt, unblockable. It's just so much fun to watch. What are your other impressions here of the first team defense, Dave?
Boy, those linebackers were flying around, weren't they?
Man, it's fun to watch Roberts and Alexander.
Boy, you go back and you think about the last couple of years with this team. Landon Roberts, as advertised, downhill and can get there in a hurry. Some impressive play, impressive hitting by him. I thought we saw some even more things from Quan Alexander. Cole Holcomb, I thought, played okay. Tanner Muse, I think, put together a couple of decent final 2 preseason games here overall. And that's the linebackers. Safety, I haven't really paid. I wasn't able to pay too much attention to the safeties last night. Outside linebackers, what else do you want Herbig to do at this point? He's got a chance, depending on what happens the rest of these preseason games, to lead the preseason. He's currently the leader in sacks for the 2023 preseason.
For the entire NFL?
For the entire NFL.
Oh, man. That's wild. I didn't know that.
Let me read them off here.
Granted, he is playing probably his game before some of the other guys play their third, but still.
Right. Where is the leaders? Hold on here.
He's got 3.5. He's got
leaders, defense, NFL, sort by sacks real quick. 3.5 sacks for him, 9 combined tackles. And he leads the NFL going into a couple of these other. Didn't Indy play last night, or has Indy played their 3rd game?
I don't even remember at this point, to be honest. I want to say yes. I saw some Richardson highlights. Mm-hmm. I think you're right, but I don't know for sure.
Because Khalid Kareem with the Colts has 3 sacks. Caleb Murphy with Tennessee has 3 sacks. Nico Lalos with New Orleans has 3 sacks. Terrell Lewis with Chicago has. So, he can be overtaken, obviously. Mm-hmm. But, look, he's had a great preseason. There's no two ways about that. Sack early, or in I think beginning of the third or beginning of the second half there. That tackle kind of was trying to cheat him a little bit, worried about the edge, and he just inside swam him. At first, I thought it was a two-handed swipe, but looking at the end zone angle on it, it was just a great step back to the inside, arm over, and a free run at the quarterback at that point. And then the play immediately after that got a pressure, and I think forced the quarterback, I think, to scramble on that one. And then there was another instance in this game where I thought it looked like there was two Nick Herbigs on the field. He chases the ball extremely well. I mean, just a little ball of energy is what this kid is. And we have seen him. I don't think I've ever seen a young pass rusher, especially a mid-round guy, progress the way he has done with his counters and his repertoire and all like that, as this kid is. So once again, big shout out to him, because he's answering all the questions.
I think at this point he's just rubbing it in on you and I for how wrong we were thinking he was going to be an off-ball type of guy. So I'll gladly eat the crow on that one. But it's been a great summer for him, and you're right, Dave. His pass rush arsenal is so deep for how young he is. I mean, this guy's got a million different moves, and he's so effective at all of them. It's not like there's any moves that he uses that are really bad. He can win with everything. And as you said, tackle, sit on speed, the athleticism, the outside kind of speed, ghost rush. He's going to win inside with head fakes and spins and swipes and swims. And it's a really deep repertoire. And you made the point a couple weeks ago, and I laugh every time that I see it, that Brian Baldinger, the first thing he does when he wakes up is turns on the Nick Herbig tape. He loves this guy, and he shows some great clips of the effort too. It's not just him as a pass rusher, but running to the football, making plays, staying on his feet, wanting to compete, and just being around the ball. And if you're a guy that's around the ball, you're going to be a good player. And Herbig's shaping up to be that way. And Marcus Golden too, with the great bull rush. I mean, he's been throwing tackles out of the club the last 2 weeks. When was the last time Pittsburgh's edge group was this deep? I don't know when it was.
It's been a while. I mean, obviously in past years, they've had a top three that's been pretty impressive. But man, when you look back at the last couple seasons, we've been talking about the Tuskus and the Jameer Jones and the Malik Reeds and the Taco Charltons. And I mean, when you talk about, you're going watch Herbig on special teams. Once you pull the reel on this one, this guy is going, and look, if there's one thing that we thought that we knew about Herbig coming once he was drafted, is this at regardless of where he plays on the defensive side of football, he's going to be a special team. He is going to have double. I'm gonna say this right. He's going to have double-digit tackles. Double-digit combined tackles on special teams in 2023.
Well, now I need a cold shower. I love it.
He can get down there in a hurry. The only thing I think that he needs to work on as far as special team stuff is just breaking down a little bit better when he gets set to make a tackle.
Yeah, and blocking, because he'll probably be on some of those frontline kick return blocking units, and they probably need some work there because that's pretty new to him, I'm guessing.
And once again, don't forget about Marcus Golden over there. He gets overshadowed because of obviously what Herbig is. If there's any validation whatsoever when it comes to Herbig, it's the fact that even Brian Baldinger said he's doing things that I didn't see him do in Wisconsin.
Right.
I mean, that's just a testament to his growth and development so far.
This is where he's at now, before he's even played a game that counts. Where's he going to be when he makes that second year jump in 2024? That's the really interesting part.
And you expect him to get a little bigger, a little stronger, right?
Sure. And just refine his game all the more and understand the game more. And he already understands it pretty well, it looks like. So really excited for that future there.
Yeah, just keep those four guys healthy now, and you can definitely have some fun with that. Defensive line, you got anything else on linebackers?
No,
stuck out?
just as you said, the intensity, the energy that Alexander, that Roberts plays with, it was one driver. It was the Landon Roberts drive with the sack and the tackle. I think he had a play on third down. I mean, it was just all him. So that should be a really good rotation of Holcomb, Alexander, and Roberts.
Okay, defensive line. I'll go first.
Okay.
I have seen the light. I have seen the light. Yeah, I have, my gut has been telling me all offseason that Montravius Adams, might be an odd man out, but I saw enough of him last night. And based off of, you got a young guy in Benton. I don't think Fajoko's really, when you look back and weren't we calling Fajoko kind of a potential Kevin Barlow type situation? When was Fajoko signed? What was the date on that?
It was a bit later. I don't know. It wasn't it was before OTAs, I believe, and all of that. But it was, third wave, April 4th, he got signed.
Okay. And that was obviously before the draft, right? So
yes.
It makes sense to go out there and add some of these guys that they added in Watts and Fajoko, because you're not guaranteed anything come draft time. Mm-hmm. What that allowed them to do was to be open to taking someone that they really liked in Keanu Benton if he was there. But if you didn't get a guy like Keanu Benton in this draft, at least you set yourself up for other than that. So I think I've been reading a little bit. I've been trying to read a little bit too much into this, but at this point, and specifically last night, I thought Montravius represented himself fairly well, especially compared to some of those other guys there. So you can baptize me now for I think Montravius Adams makes his 53.
Yeah, as a guy that's run first team and had a good camp. Although I wrote the article today, and it's just kind of more that think piece that I think Omar Khan has to try to trade one of these guys, because if you're going to lose one of these players that's talented and worthy of making a 53, you're going to think 8 guys that legitimately could make this team with 7 spots max being kept. Yeah, I think Adams would actually be the guy that would have the most trade value. He's played a lot of football. He's still pretty young. Contract's relatively cheap. And, if you wanted to go with Benton and Fajoko as your nose tackles and Watts kind of emergency third string, now you could probably do that. But assuming they don't actually do that and they don't trade Adams, then the question I would ask you then, okay, are you keeping Fajoko or are you cutting Fajoko?
No, I came to the determination that it's an either or.
Okay.
Between those, I think, because I think Watts' versatility overall makes him an asset there. But
they like Fajoko. Tomlin likes Fajoko.
I know, but I mean, even if you cut him, I mean, is another team going to clamor to have him on the 53, or is Fajoko more of a practice squad guy?
I think someone's going to find use for him, especially when an injury strikes as a backup nose. I mean, he's definitely a one-note guy. He's here to stop the run, and that's right. It. But he stops the run well, and I think Pittsburgh values that.
How many snaps, by the way, did Fajoko play during?
And it was good for Benton to get back on the field defensively. I don't know what the snap count was, but he did play defensively, and that was good to see.
And he might not have he still might not be 100%.
Sure.
Fajoko, let's see. 46 defensive snaps throughout the preseason. Obviously, most of them in between the B gap. All but two of them, I think, from B gap to B gap. He had 2 snaps at right end.
Okay, yeah, I mean 46 still a healthy number for a guy that's kind of a base nose tackle. They did try some sub package nickel stuff with him, not his calling card, but they had some. An attempt was made there. So I don't know. I'm still wrestling with it. So it sounds like you're keeping 2 nose tackles, Adams and Benton, and you may keep both defensive ends in terms of Watts and Loudermilk.
Yeah, if they keep 7, yeah.
Okay. I thought Loudermilk
with Loudermilk being inactive.
Okay, I thought at just first glance Loudermilk looked good against the run last night. Just watching it live, just a couple clips that stuck out to me. So I got to go through the tape on that one, but thought Loudermilk's run defense was good.
If you intended on keeping Braden Fajoko and making a serious charge, for him. and assuming he was healthy through all 3 games, which obviously it looked like he was, aren't you going to try to put him on the field more than 46 snaps? I mean, he only played 13 last night.
Yeah, but he's a base, if Atlanta's out in 11 personnel, then you're a nickel and you're not playing for Hoko. I think 46 snaps across 3 games is pretty solid number.
Okay. All right. I'm still going to flip though. I'm going to flip to Adams. I don't know. Fought it too long.
No, I understand. I mean, I've been vouching for Adams, and so I understand, that. I don't want to fight you too much on that, but let's move on here to defensive backs and cornerbacks, and I don't have a ton of notes here overall.
Oh, we forgot to shout out Mark Robinson for the a couple nice plays, I think, in this game last night, and obviously down in the Steelers end of the field, getting low, and him and Joe. I have to go back and look at that a little bit closer, see how much. I mean, Joey Porter was obviously in on the play, but I think it was Robinson's hit that dislodged that.
Yeah, I think just logically, who's the guy that made the play? It was probably the flying linebacker who came downhill. Can Pittsburgh and should Pittsburgh find ways to get Robinson on the field this season, even if it's a small sampling and limited number of snaps? Should that be something Pittsburgh attempts?
Look, I could see putting him in there. Definitely low red zone.
Okay. I think they.
He goes downhill good, and he hits good, and all like that. So I think. Yeah, I think you can. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be a lot, but I think you can get him on the field, especially in run situations.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh should do what they did late last year with him. Some of those 3-5, when you had 5 linebackers on the field, he took off a safety or took off, I think, a corner. I forget. Maybe you could mix and match there against 13 personnel, so 3 tight end sets with just 1 wide receiver on the field. And it's not going to be a lot of snaps, but I think there's going to be an opportunity. I just don't want this guy to just run down kicks and punts all year long. I know it's going to be a tough path. I know the top 3 are the top 3, and Holcomb and Alexander and Roberts, but Mark Robinson has progressed, and he deserves some playing time.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you don't want to get into any situations where you have to put Tanner Muse on the field, but I thought he's kind of represented himself well in these last 2 preseason games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's taken that spot over Nick Rutowski, who came back and played last night from that shoulder injury, but I just think he's the guy that got hurt, and Muse played well, and that's all she wrote.
Okay.
All right, defensive back here. I don't have a ton of notes. I mean,
Atlanta,
they obviously were shut out. The passing game was pretty crappy overall. Heck, you know what? I should go back to outside linebacker just really quickly. Shout out to Quincy Roche and even Toby Ndukwe. A sack on the final play of the preseason. Good exclamation point for him.
Paralis too. Paralis had his best preseason game.
It was a great movie. Yeah, all those outside linebackers kind of popped at the end. They all knew it was the last preseason game. They better make a play. And yeah, credit to those guys. But to go back to the defensive back, I keep repeating myself. James Pierre just frustrates me, Dave. And it's just little things. I mean, it's not anything where he got toasted and allowed a 40-yard play or a touchdown last night. It's just some of the little things, like not touching the guy right away when he goes on the ground and kind of waiting a second, and not finding the football, having trouble getting his head around, and first tackler in trying to punch the ball out, doesn't really wrap up and allows some yards after contact. I'm not saying he's going to be cut, but I'm not going to be shocked if he's cut, to be honest with you. He may be a guy that makes the roster initially, and then the day after they add somebody. I'm not going to rule that out.
All right. So, I mean, we've said all along the value with James Pierre as special teams, specifically at gunner, right?
Right. Which he's good at, to his credit.
Right. Now, if that wasn't enough for him to make the 53, then who else is there somebody else that within kind of both of our perception of what the 53 would look like that would be the gunner? Or is there somebody just outside the bubble that, like a 6 wide receiver, say like Dez or something? How much gunner did Dez play?
I mean, he was working there in the second half against Buffalo and against Atlanta. I mean, they didn't punt a lot. I mean, they punted a lot in the second half. So actually, I retract that statement. But I mean, you probably got a couple reps there.
I guess what I'm asking is, could Dez Fitzpatrick be your sixth wide receiver instead of a gunner. Well, I mean, you still are you going to dress all six?
Yeah, you're not going to dress Fitzpatrick though.
Right. So, all right. So let's go back to the question then with James Pierre. If he does not make this 53, with it primarily being as a gunner, who else would be that gunner?
Well, you got two options, I think, and there is no clean answer there. A, Joey Porter Jr. I wouldn't rule that out. Size and length, and I think he's got the speed to run down kicks. Or obviously, you're replacing James Pierre with somebody. You're not just taking him off and not replacing with another fourth outside corner. So whoever gets replaced, whoever takes Pierre's place, will become likely the gunner.
Right. I'm not saying it has to be one for one positionally.
Right, but I'm just saying in terms of who's going to replace him, it may be the guy that let's say you release James Pierre to go add cornerback X. He may become the actual gunner then.
Okay.
It just, and he may stay. I think he will likely be on my initial.
Could if he doesn't make it, are you still in where you're thinking that you're going to keep 6 true corners?
Yes, because you need a fourth outside corner, and I think Sullivan and Riley have played well enough to stick, and so I think they're going to keep 6 corners and 4 safeties.
Okay, so obviously James Pierre is a corner, so. Who would be that 6th corner then?
Well, I'm saying they're going to replace him with an outsider that I don't have a name of him. They go sign
outside the organization. Oh, yes. I see what you're saying. Okay,
yes.
Yeah,
some outsider waiver wire claim, something like that would be the replacement. Yes.
All right, but and that guy not necessarily have to be a gunner.
It would help. It would make the math a little bit easier, but I think you could have Porter do it as well for early in his career.
Okay.
I just my overall point on Pierre is that I think he is who he is
defensively. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the coach just in training camp, the coach is kind of getting on him for lack of technique and hand use and punch. And obviously the job is to coach. He's not the only one who gets, coached to, but at this point in his career, he should be more than what he is. I think he is who he is. And he is one snap away from seeing serious defensive reps. And I just don't know if they really trust this guy.
All right.
At safety, it was good that Norwood played. It was a lot of late action, second half action. Probably too little, too late for him. Kenny Robinson was okay. I think he's kind of fizzled out a bit at the end in terms of making that push for the 53. Trenton Thompson loves to hit, that's for sure. He throws his body around pretty good. I think he's practice squad material. Any thoughts here on safety play?
Yeah, I haven't had enough time to kind of focus on that from last night's game there overall. But wasn't Trey part of that third team, got in a lot later than guys like Trenton Thompson?
Yeah, I think you're right. And so I know he was coming back from an injury, but I think the writing on the wall is there for him. Does he make it to he probably passes through waivers, but does he go in the practice squad? Does he go somewhere else? We'll have to wait and see.
I think he probably passed through waivers and you could get him to the practice squad.
Yeah. Just wonder, does he want to go somewhere else? Because it's going to be hard to get some safety reps, I think, in Pittsburgh right now. All right. Special teams. Presley Harvin. What was the stat that you had? 6 punts, 6 inside the 20 in the preseason. Yes. That's pretty good. I would venture a guess and say that. Right.
The only thing that we didn't get to see was another specific thing that I was hoping to see was him backed up in his own end zone, trying to punt like that. But definitely not his fault. I think he secured a job. But I'll say this: Braden Mann put up a fight last night.
Yeah, he punted well in the second half and got a lot of action. And
you know where I'm going here.
I know. I'm letting you go.
I did start to think last night, well, is there a team out there that could use a punter? And might you get a 7th round pick for Braden Mann here in these final hours?
You can't rule it out. They did it with Brad Wing a couple years ago. It's not uncommon to see punters get moved around this time of year. He's a guy that's got NFL experience, was with the Jets, top prospect coming out of Texas A&M. I'm not going to say you're crazy to think that.
All right. That thought crossed my mind with a couple of those Braden Mann punts last night.
Yeah, doesn't hurt his case. That's for sure. And if you're Omar Khan, work the phones. Worst teams can do is say no, but I'm not sure who needs a punter. I'm guessing somebody does out there, and maybe they want to take a Braden Mann.
All right.
What's his contract? I assume it's cheap.
Yeah, that's a minimum value deal.
Okay, good deal. Let's see, Calvin Austin, couple decent punt returns. He should be the team's punt returner. Like I said, McFarland pressing, trying to run out that kick. I understand why he did it. Maybe that's one where you do want to take a knee on that. But again, I understand the mentality and trying to get a look for him and for this return unit. BT Potter missed a field goal at the end there, wide left, but that's not impacting much of anything from a roster construction standpoint. Any other special teams thoughts, Dave?
None pre all 22.
Okay, and Rodney Williams, as we mentioned, making a tackle, which was good for him, and I think he sticks around as a practice squatter.
Let's look real quick at preseason total special teams tackles for this team real quick here. Kenny Robinson had 2 total. Elijah Riley had 4 total. Two main, 2 assists. Hot Rod Williams had 3 total tackles and a forced fumble. Des Fitzpatrick had 2 and a fumble recovery. And then you had Jalen Elliott 1, Nick Herbig 1, Roche 1, Harper 1, Chappelle Russell 1, Hakeem Butler 1. And obviously Russell and Butler are on IR. So that's and then as far as assists go, Mark Robinson had an assist and Tanner Muse had an assist. So that's your special teams tackle breakdown for the preseason.
Do you have snap counts? Do you have who led in? I'm guessing Tanner Muse led in special teams snaps, but I just want to know maybe the top 3 or 5 names from that unit this whole preseason.
I don't know if
too tough to get.
Yeah, it might be too tough to get.
Maybe for a Monday show.
Right. Remind me to have that ready for the Monday show.
Okay. All right, Dave. Good preseason overall. I'm happy. They're healthy. They
good preseason. Great preseason.
Perfect preseason. I should accurately reflect my article I wrote this morning. So, what does this mean for week 1? To kind of go back to the question I posed at the start of the show, what does it mean? What does it mean for week 1 against the 49ers?
You hate. Look, I try to stay very even keel and balanced through this thing. I learned a lot from you during your training camp reports and all like that. And then I finally get my eyes on things once the preseason comes around and all like that. And even so, I try to stay very, very measured throughout this thing. I'm pretty excited about this team now. Seeing what I've seen. Now, obviously, it is preseason. We've seen not necessarily Steelers teams in the past, but other teams just, wreck it and have very good preseasons and have all this hype going in. But look, for you to have a successful Steelers season this year, it's going to have to have good defensive play and then be counterbalanced on the other side with a nice running game and above average quarterback play. And I think we saw above average quarterback play and then some out of Kenny Pickett this year. I think as far as the running game concerned from with the starters and the offensive line, I think you saw what you had to see there. Defensively, the pieces that they have in this defense seem to have gelled okay. Really, really nicely. They're healthy on side of that football. I think, going into this offseason, you're worried about what this inside linebacker. Long story short, it's look, I was already over the 8.5 wins. I don't see how anybody could play the under on 8.5 wins for this team right now. Now where it goes from there, I was thinking, I was definitely at the 9.5 mark, I think, as far as wins. Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder if this team can't win 12 or 11 games now.
Ooh, okay. I like it.
At this point, it's hard to separate what you've seen from a preseason, and then extrapolate that. And then look, you got to take into account who they play and, they've got some tough teams, but there's a lot of winnable ball games throughout the schedule. I think for this team, definitely, I think an easier schedule than it was last year. And once again, this team won nine games last year.
And they were a mess for most of that year.
Right. So you can't tell me, unless just getting annihilated by injuries. You can't. to come out and say that this team's going to be, and I'm not going to throw out my prediction yet. I got a lot of time still to stew about it here, but I mean, I don't see how anybody in their right mind, based on what they've seen so far, can say, yeah, this is just going to be a 9-7 team again. I mean, they've got to be better than that. I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty giddy coming out of the preseason, and that's rare for me.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Where are you most confident at with this team heading into week 1? And where are you the least confident at with this team heading into week 1? And yeah, it could be a position group. It could be whatever you want it to be. But where do you?
Edge rusher. I don't see how that can't be kind of edge rusher and interior offensive line play.
Those are our greatest hits. Those are kind of our meat and potatoes over here.
Right. I don't think that you can come out of this preseason and say, yeah, that those groups look good. And then just offensive line in general, they're a deeper unit, a better unit than they were. And then from there, I think you step into the development of Kenny Pickett's just been outstanding. And then from there, I think you look at, the inside line, what they've been able to do with this inside linebacker room. I mean, there are so many layers to this onion to answer this question, because, I mean, you bring in two safeties in, well, I mean, obviously Casey's a carryover, but now you have Keanu Neal, who's played with Casey in the past. I mean, you've got your top 3 safeties. You can have a lot of fun with that now. Mm-hmm. With this team, if those guys stay healthy. Your slot, you probably feel better. You do feel better about the slot cornerback position as a whole than probably you did in March, April, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be an extreme strength. It's not going to be the Mike Hilton level of great play, but you do feel better about the group, absolutely.
I mean, and here we are talking about, well, what do you feel best about? And then you can tier this thing easily because there are so many things, I think.
What I would answer to that question, most confident, least confident, most confident, 2 things. One, basically to bounce off your point, pass rush. The pass rush is going to be just amazing this year. They should be a 50 sack plus team, so they're going to get after it. They got great depth. Defensive line, you had Benton, you had Herbig, Golden, just really, really good. I'm also confident this offense is passed through growing pains. That does not mean they're going to be a top 8 offense, but they should be at least an average offense from a points per game standpoint. I think they can be fairly comfortably above average in points per game. This offense is past all just the crap they went through a year ago. I'm very confident in that. Where I'm least confident, and it's hard to pick a place because it's been a really good summer, but secondary, just how strong, how top heavy is the secondary. I still have some reservations about Patrick Peterson, his age, his speed on the outside. I do like Levi Wallace, but I understand he's not a number 1 corner. Porter's had a good summer, but still a rookie, still having to work off man and zone coverage and some things to work on. Slot corner, I feel better about, don't feel amazing about either. So it's, it's not that I'm losing sleep over it, but if you had to pick a spot, I still say secondary is the place where you're still not quite sure how that unit's going to look.
I'll say this: this is going to be a well put together 53. It should be a healthy 53. Yeah. I mean, when you look at health, how many seasons in a row have we gone where there's had to have had? Boy, say that.
Yeah, you stuck the landing though.
Yeah. Say that when you don't have hardly a lick of college in you. Now I lost my train of thought there.
The health of this team.
Yeah, the health of this team, where there hasn't had to have. See, you do it too many times, you mess up.
Yeah.
Have had to have been roster manipulation for the IR, right? Because for a guy to qualify for designated to return, he has to be on the initial 53, right?
Yeah, like Calvin Austin last year, Zach Banner, I believe the year before.
So it doesn't look like there's going to have to be any of that ring around the rosy there.
As far as we know, unless something is really sinister going on with Ogunjobi or Herbig, which does not seem to be the case, then yeah, it's going to be a straight 53 in the sense of no keeping a guy for a day to put him on IR to return.
Right. So, I mean, that alone, in and of itself is a monumental thing. I think that, and it just plays back into at the top of the show. Could you have scripted this offseason to go any better than it has?
No, you literally, if you gave me pen and paper on July 20th and said, write down your ideal Steelers preseason, I could have not written it out better. And if I had, you would have said, Alex, you're a lunatic. Get out of here.
All right. All right.
Where are you least confident, though? To go back to that, I didn't get your least confident moment or portion of this team.
I kind of wonder about the depth on this defensive line.
Okay, I'm with you. That's fair. I mean, but I think there is a lot of depth, but if you lost, God forbid you lose a Cam Hayward, how do you replace him? There's nobody to really replace him in that sense.
Leal's Leal's very athletic, but
yeah,
can he be that guy?
I got reservations with Leal as a pass rusher. When I say this D-line is deep and competitive, I do truly believe that. I say that from the sense of there are guys who are worth being on the 53. Now, or can they be starters? And what is their ceiling is a different type of question. But when I say the competitiveness, I say that, guys that have played well enough to make the team and be carried. And that's kind of maybe a bit more narrow scope in which I talk about the depth of the D-line. I think Loudermilk has a very low ceiling. Leal's still unrefined. Watts is fine. Fehoko is a very niche type player. So I just want to be very clear and specific when I talk about the depth of this defensive line.
And even, Montravius Adams, I think he's done enough, obviously to make this 53. But, I mean, he's hit his ceiling.
Yeah, he's not a high level. Like the high level dudes along the D-line or the potentially high level dudes are Cam, Benton in terms of what a ceiling can be, and when healthy, Ogunjobi. Like those are your three really kind of like studs. Everybody else is a bit more role and niche, and you're not going to have them play 800 snaps in a season.
They need Ogunjobi to be 2021 Ogunjobi. If they do, look out. And if everybody else stays healthy, look out.
And he's got to be healthy, man.
What happens if he's not?
That's a fair question. Yeah, they're going to need more from Leal. Leal's going to have to really step up as a pass rusher. But the good news is there's a lot of pass rush sources elsewhere from Hayward and from Benton and from this just embarrassment of riches at outside linebacker.
And, going back to what, man, we're going to run long, but Terrell Austin saying that, there's going to be, some tough cuts on the defensive line, some guys that can play in the NFL. That statement alone, can we read into that Ogunjobi's healthy?
I hope so. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, he looked okay whenever I saw him, because I saw him the day that he got hurt and he walked around fine, but you're in a boot. You haven't played all preseason. The reps that are missed, we talked about last year, that Ogunjobi kind of had a tough year because, he was hurt and he missed time in the summer and they were very careful with him, not wanting to put too much on his plate. And he played more last summer than he played this summer. So, what do you do with that?
All right. Let's see. We obviously got 53-man roster projections coming on the site, full breakdowns coming, film rooms coming from the game. And, as we get into next week, I don't think they're going to make any cuts until they absolutely have to.
What did they do last year under Omar? Did they wait last second? I don't remember, because under Colbert, they waited till like the very last second when the NFL was probably banging on their door saying, "Hey, can you guys get your cuts in?"
Right.
But what did they do last year? Let's see.
I'm trying to remember. It was fairly late. I think some names they all leak out, or something.
Sure.
The obvious ones kind of leak out there. As far as the team announcing it was on the the 30th,
which I assume was deadline day, right?
I believe so, because that was the same day that they traded for Malik Reed and Jesse Davis, and they released and waived a lot of guys that same day on August 30th. So what day was August 30th last year?
Oh, I have no idea. I assume that was cut down.
Scroll back. That was a Tuesday.
All right, then I assume it's that. It looks like there was an initial wave earlier in the afternoon on cut down day where they announced, or maybe rumored that 20 guys or so were cut, and there was kind of a second wave. That looks like how it went last year, but I don't quite remember.
Right. I do think it came in waves, but I do think it came on that Tuesday, though.
I think you're right as well. So, all right, Dave. I don't know if there's any reader
should we have oh yeah, I guess we got to get to read your emails. Plus, also maybe we'll have a round table with some of these guys before the regular season starts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that.
Let's see what we got in.
And just sorry to interrupt, but yeah, 12-15 last year, they announced their first wave of cuts, and then a little bit later, I think the final cuts came in.
All right, just a few emails here. Kevin and buddy Kevin in Albuquerque. Wanted to get your thoughts on a point in Alex's overnight video summarizing the 24-0 victory against the Falcons. He said the depth at linebacker is so much better than last year. He says, I agree with this outside and inside. My question boils down to this. Do you see this improved depth, especially at inside linebacker, as a product of selection of better free agents than in years past, or of players who better fit the Steelers style? He says, I know there's been much talk on previous episodes on the podcast in the Kevin Colbert era of dumpster diving for talent and free agency. Is the improvement about getting quality closer to the kitchen than the dumpster? That's an interesting way to phrase it. Or maybe finding players that just fit the scheme the Steelers want to play more successfully. So how much versus better quality dumpster diving versus better fit schematic? Look, Quan is on a veteran benefit contract, right? With 152,000. Right. So it's not like they backed the Brinks truck up to get Quan Alexander.
Yeah, or Marcus Golden, who's on the same contract, right?
Or right, and he's edge, obviously. But I mean, as far as inside line,
well, you said linebacker depth in general. That's what I was getting at.
Holcomb and Holcomb, they spend a little bit money on, but I mean, Landon Roberts wasn't all that expensive.
No, very cheap 2-year deal. So, I mean, it goes hand in hand. Anytime you get guys that fit your scheme better, you're probably just signing better free agents. But yeah, I think they're part and parcel. But certainly, I think you got guys that fit the system a bit more effectively at inside linebacker, guys that are more physical, intense, downhill, attack the run, and Alexander and Roberts. And then on the edge, it's just drafting well, your system well. And to get a guy like Golden was a huge get.
Jeff Berg writes in, is this team the most loaded in forever? I'm 50 and I've been following this team my whole life, and it's been a long time since this team was so loaded. When last would you say this team was this loaded with talent? Oh Lord, I don't even want to try to recollect. Look, I feel we've said this. This is a very talented 53, no matter how it ends up. I will say that this is a very good-looking 53-man roster for this team, and probably a better one than we've seen in several years.
Yeah, I can't answer concretely, as a team, but happy with where things are at.
He says his only complaint is McFarland and Calvin Austin III having their undershirts hanging way below their jersey, which would seem to make it easier to grab a hold of them in certain situations. It's hard not to be excited for this team. Here's to hoping the preseason wasn't an anomaly.
Yeah, the only thing I should mention with Austin, and it's kind of jokey with the comment about the shirts, at least I assume that it is, but Austin does spin too much on punt returns, and I'm worried about the ball getting dislodged one of these days.
Okay. All right. Steve Novakovic, rookie outside linebacker Nick Herbig racked up 3.5 sacks this preseason. How impressed should we be? When was the last time a Steeler outside linebacker had one or more sacks per game in 3 preseason games in the same preseason? Don't you have to go back to either, Kozora?
Yeah, and Adaney. Did Jameer Jones have a bunch? I know he did great on special teams. Did he get sacks too? I mean, it's happened before. I know it feels kind of new, but yeah, Kozora, Adaney, maybe even Jameer Jones. Like I said, Pittsburgh always kind of pass rushers to pop in the summer. Guys that are new, and Herbig's this year's flavor.
And as far as his question coming about Nick Herbig racked up 3.5 sacks this preseason, how impressed should we be? Take the actual sack number out of it. The tape alone has just been fantastic with him, period.
Yeah, the stats and the tape match up. Sometimes you get, 3.5 sacks and they're pretty low quality, their coverage, whatever the case is, quarterback runs into you. Not the case with Herbig. They've all been high quality sacks.
And he's got some pressures in here, and he's got some chases and all like that. So how impressed should we be? How about very impressed?
I'm with you.
All right. I think we got through the emails there. You and I'll be back on Monday to go over the all 22 and start getting set up to go over our final 53-man roster predictions and all like that. So great preseason, Alex. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
Just want to thank our whole team staying up late last night, this whole preseason. The one downside of preseason is all these night games that make for some late nights, early mornings, but it's been a great month for the site and appreciate all the support and still got a lot more coming your guys' way.
We sure do. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. Not bad for a couple guys just going on a couple hours of sleep, I don't think, today, right? And we got a busy day ahead of us, and we'll be back, obviously, on Monday. So, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.